Hello friends, I would love to share a very fighting game we just finished in World Blitz Championship where Magnus Carlsen, the current world champion, won versus Wojtaszek, a super grandmaster from Poland. In this game Wojtaszek went for 1d4, Carlsen opted for knight f6, c4, e6, knight f3, d5, knight c3 and c5. A semi-tarish from the world champion, an opening which he uses a lot in this tournament, and here Wojtaszek decides to go for c6 d5. Now the most common way of playing here is actually to take with the knight, give up the center temporarily and end up in this forcing line. c6 d4, pawn takes d4, bishop b4, bishop d2, takes, castles. And here white has the center, however black will try to attack it. So bishop b7, knight d7, rook c8, maybe even knight to f6 depending on what white plays. And it's a reasonably balanced game where white is a little bit better. However, today Carlsen decided to take with the pawn, and here bishop g5. So very interesting structure, I have to say. We still don't know where we're gonna go, depending of course on what white is going to play. So bishop e6, over protecting d5, a pawn that could later be an isolated one, e3, c4. So now everything completely changes. We enter what we call Panov structure. As you can see, black has the majority on the queen side, and one of his main plans is to push, create a pass pawn and kill white on the queen side. And white's main ideas are connected to knight e5, sometimes attacking the d5 pawn with bishop coming to f3, or even knight e5, f4 sometimes happens. So white immediately takes that into consideration and plays knight e5, bishop e7 by Magnus, bishop e2, castles, and now black doesn't really want to play knight c6, as changing the structure to something like this would really not favor black and interfere with his main plan, expanding on the queen side, as there is no b pawn no more. So instead he plays knight fd7. An interesting way of exchanging this knight, offering that. First of all, of course, we exchange the dark square bishops, and here one of the interesting ways to play for white would be to retreat with the knight. So if black plays, for example, knight c6, now we're the ones that could start attack on the queen side, due to the fact that, of course, black cannot play b5. And something like that, of course, is already quite nice for white. It's hard to say if this majority on the queen side benefits black or white. It only depends on who is more active on that side of the board, whether this is an asset or a weakness for black. Instead, we have bishop f3, attacking d5, and we have a forcing line. Takes, 3 pieces attack on d7. However, black is going to be able to put the rook on d8 and pin it. So we had rook d8, knight takes d5, bishop takes d5, bishop takes d5, and now knight c6. So attacking e5, and white just establishes his pawn on e4. Now, one of the possible ways of playing was to play knight e5, probably queen d4 would follow, and Magnus could have played something like b5, even sacking. It seems like an exchange, but it's not true because the bishop is pinned. So instead, Magnus decided to opt for knight b4, attacking the a2 pawn, and Wojtaszek completely ignores it. If we take the pawn and rook takes c4, white is just much better here, if not winning. So Magnus doesn't do that and plays rook a c8, simply guards the pawn. Queen d4, putting one more attacker, b5, f4. What a fight! Rook c5 by black, an artificial move, I have to say, very unnatural maybe in a way, at least for me. And white just plays rook fd1. So both players have fully developed all the pieces. Magnus plays a prophylactic king f8, a3 by Wojtaszek, and now we enter a forcing line where Wojtaszek probably has missed the win. So he played e takes d5, and there is a fantastic move here, b4. So if we take en passant, obviously we just lose the rook on c5. If we take on f4, white can capture that, takes, say king e7, and I take here. White should be winning this. And the last line, if for example we retreat, we would just take the knight. So b4 would have probably won the game for Wojtaszek. However, he played takes on d5, now rook takes d5, and a very forcing line where we end up in a balanced endgame. White is having 2 rooks versus queen, a6, rook d1, and in blitz of course we usually tend to favor the queen, whereas in classical game 2 rook versus queen, maybe 2 rooks can attack twice, right? The benefit, I remember a beautiful quote, the benefit of having the queen is that you move all your powers with 1 piece, whereas white has to move it with 2. So g6 by black, avoiding back rank checkmate issues, for the king. G3, C3. And because black has a queen, Magnus is looking for imbalances and tries to open up the game so that will be check. And I think that it's very important factor in this position and this imbalance in general would be if white manages to put his king to safety or not. So it takes on c3, takes on a3, and now black has an opportunity later to create a pass pawn here. Actually, he already has one. It's just that the question is whether he can push it or not. Rook d3, guarding the pawn. Queen b2, rook d7, queen e2, rook d6, trying to coordinate the rook. And what white wants in general is, of course, joining the party on the 7th rank. So queen e1 check, check. Black probably has a perpetual whenever he wants. a4. So pushing the pass pawn because Carlsen plays for the win all the time. Rook a7, queen c4. Now the question is, what happens here? And the problem here is that the a pawn decides the game. So we have king f2 in general instead, king g7, rook dc7, queen d5, lots of maneuvering, king e3, g5. So again, looking for imbalances, and here what Wojtaszek probably missed is that now once we enter that and white plays king d3, he's in time to stop the a pawn, and white is pawn up here. So white is winning. However, he did not do that, went for rook e7 because probably it's a blitz game. We have g6f4, queen c5, and it's so annoying to play with white this position when black's queen is all over the place. And Magnus later decided to, of course, he could grab all the pawns, and Wojtaszek simply couldn't run out of the checks. h5, and again taking on f7 and going to the endgames no longer work because black is just simply pawns up. And here it's very sad for Wojtaszek that he didn't find a perpetual, of course. He had a few opportunities to win this game, and now it's just over. Queen d4, Wojtaszek resigns, we promote on the next move, game over, and Magnus wins the game. So I guess a very, very fighting game. Magnus had problems here, but of course the lucky ones are the ones that are the strongest ones. Congratulations to Carlsen for another beautiful game. If you did enjoy the analysis, please subscribe to my channel, stay healthy, continue loving the game, and I'm going to see you in the next video. Bye bye.